Hello everyone, Maryann here, revealing light, tarot, astrology and spirituality. How are you today? The eclipse in Australia was in the early hours of the morning, and I feel the energy has shifted here. I hope it's shifted where you are for the better. Everything feels a lot calmer. When I look across the world, it seems that there are many areas where there's boiling points being reached, and eclipses are all about culminations, not so much endings but culminations, and I see that playing out particularly over the next 6 months. I see that playing out quite strongly in the US. We had over the weekend the meme, it wasn't so much I guess it was a meme of Trump dressed in cavalry, a cavalry uniform and hat, threatening to go to war with Chicago. So it seems to me everything in the US right now is like a bad TV reality show. Doesn't matter where I look, but it's a reality, bad reality, nightmarish reality TV show that has that's doing real harm, that's hurting people, it's costing. Over the weekend there was a raid on the Hyundai factory in Georgia, and of course now there is talk about them rethinking their investment in the US, given that there was about 300 South Korean workers that were there in part to train American workers, in part because they had the skills where others didn't. This was an EV car factory. So it's going to make setting up factories very, very difficult if other countries can't bring in their own expertise and train people in America. So, and there's all sorts of regulations now around visas. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out with South Korea. All right, so I've had questions around, will America's democracy survive Trump? And I want to look at that. And where is the hope there? I think there are many instances of hope that we can see, particularly in the court. The court's saying no to Trump. Grand juries not indicting. And we keep seeing this more and more of the cover-up with Epstein. I suggested we follow the money. I mean, that's what the cards were telling me. There were payments made by Epstein to co-conspirators to shut them up. And the Miami Herald has asked, I think, and also CBS News have asked for those names to be released. And the DOJ has said no, they shouldn't be released. So we get this, what is he so afraid of? And of course we had the Epstein survivors speak out, and more will do so in the coming months. So there's constant cover-up. There's a good chance we'll get a lot released, that by chipping away, this bipartisan way that politicians in America are chipping away to try and survivors and good lawyers are chipping away. There's a good chance that we will find out the truth of why there's been this cover up and what was the exact nature of the relationship between Epstein and Trump. I think that's going to come out. I've got a good feeling on that. It'll take work, but I think that it's an inevitability that it will come out. States are banding together, which I predicted straight after the election in November, that more and more they would combine to do their own thing. They're now producing a lot of the science that the CDC won't produce. They're partnering with Canada to fight fires and forestry management. And more and more moving away from the federal government. And of course, the talk of secession keeps rising. Again, I predicted it would. So let's get started with the reading today. I want to take a look at the US economy. Also, want to go to the UK. Terrible scenes coming out of the UK of protesters for Palestine are being arrested for holding placards. Terrible crackdown on free speech by Sir Keir Starmer, the current Prime Minister. And where's that going to end? And also it's been announced that the Australian Prime Minister is going to meet with Trump, and I want to look how that's going to go, because here in Australia we understand the need to look after ourselves now that America under Trump's America, and I'll state this again, this is those that voted for him, not those that didn't, is increasingly unreliable. So tourism, you've seen the photos of the airports. Nobody wants to come to America. Why would they? Jack Daniels, most of those states that trade with Canada, American states trading with Canada, Jack Daniels sales are down by 62%. That's why I want to look at the economy, because all these things are going to are feeding into, I think there's 7 million jobs available. And you know, I think it was Jessica Torlov, she raised that figure, so there's no spinning that figure. There's 330 million people in America and only 7.1 million jobs available at this time. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look. When I did look just before, as I opened up this reading, deciding what I would be, what I'd be reading on, I saw very much a cutting saw cutting through two areas. And so in terms of long term, I think there will be more and more separation of states in America, more and more movement away from the United States. That's what I see happening. Maybe that's a right now image. Maybe that will change under a good leader in the future. Let's see. So the question is, will America's democracy survive Donald Trump? Will America's democracy survive Donald Trump? I see a dark road and a sunrise, but also a setting sun. So there's endings, a lot of endings, and a lot of, I guess, beginnings. After endings come beginnings. Will America's democracy survive Donald Trump? Will the rural areas are actually going to hurt quite significantly. We know that in Arkansas, it's over 50% of farmers are predicting they're going to go bust. They're in dire straits, and to me, that's the biggest, FAFO going, that Arkansas, a ruby red state, and these farmers are being so hurt by the tariffs. We have that Supreme Court decision which coming up, and I feel that the Supreme Court will say Trump didn't have the legal authority, and the Treasury Secretary was there saying that they'll have to pay that money back. He did put a percentage on, over 50% of the money has to be paid back. All right, let's have a look. Will America's democracy survive Trump? It's a simple question. Will America's... I keep getting the rural America is going to really, really hurt. And they're the people, they're his base. Okay. Will America's democracy survive Donald Trump? Will America's democracy survive Donald Trump? So we get freedom. Isn't that an interesting card to pull straight out? Freedom's being taken away. Keep seeing those rural images, tractor drivers. When I go into this clairvoyantly, if you don't have, it's like if the capitalistic system falls because of mismanagement, if the economy is crashing or crashes, particularly in states that relied not only on immigration, labour and immigration, but also trade, and they're being cut off, and you don't have that economic viability, then where does that leave? Where does that leave their vote? Did they vote for this? So there's a link between the economy, economic well-being, I guess, and democracy. People certainly didn't vote to go bankrupt. Freedom's being taken away. Okay, so it's interesting. The whatever bird this is, I guess it's just an archetype of a bird. They're rising up. They're not descending, and so there's a fight for freedoms. The fight is within the people's grasp, and we get play. What an odd card. I was talking about cosplaying, play, freedom and play. That again, I liken this to I don't like the word surreal, but a nightmarish reality show that is doing so much damage. Wonder. Okay, so people are even in the red states, and you will have seen the clips of him being booed at the tennis open, US Open. People in red states are starting to question their vote, are starting to question Trump. His disapproval rating is in the 30%. We've seen the town halls. Republicans have just stopped doing them because of the backlash. Flexibility is in the past. This is interesting. When you reduce the flexibility, and again, Hyundai not allowing their workers to come in to train, to bring initially skills needed to set the factory up. If they're not allowed, if the flexibility is gone, if there's just rigidity, and it's almost like, what have you got? The US is not open for business. So I'm just getting a real link here between the economy, what people thought they were voting for and what they didn't, what they're not getting. And we get presence. Presence is in the sky. Okay, so people are being woken up, and I know people are tired of, readers or psychics saying, this has been a real wake-up moment. But it is that. It's about being present now, not complacent. And it's not just Democrats who are being jolted out of their complacency. It is those voters in red states. Forgiveness, isn't that interesting? And when we look from a higher point of view, forgiveness, it looks like there's going to be unification in some way. Now, I'm not saying that red and blue are going to come together for the common good and embrace, but it looks like there's some sort of forgiveness. Looks like there's some kind of... These are all hopeful signs that America can come together for its own survival. Boundaries, absolutely. Wow, boundaries there. No. That's why the fight, even though it's so backbreaking and so hard to be, to keep putting your attention on this man and what he's doing, it's like now's not the time to give up. Now's the time to make sure those boundaries are enforced. And there we have it. Hope. That is in the present. So when I woke up this morning and I felt a little calmer, it's like maybe I just glimpsed a little bit of light coming through. That there is hope that the boundaries will either hold, even though they're very tenuous, or be restored in some way. We get honour in the hopes and fears. I know that there is a lot of shame. I know that people feel ashamed for the way, they see the South Koreans, an ally, their workers being shackled. South Korea's dispensed its diplomats, its people, to make sure that they can't really trust how their people will be treated in custody. So they've these diplomats are coming over to make sure to oversee that their workers will be treated fairly. We see people with cancer deported. We see citizens being caught up and being deported. Those that are there legally being deported. We see the shame in the White House being turned into some kind of exclusive club. Honour is at stake. And we finally have our outcome card, resilience. So, will America's democracy survive? I'm so pleased to bring you this reading today because it lifts me up as well. There is resilience. There is hope, and that the boundaries will hold, but there is resilience. Underneath, we have connection, bringing people back to connect with one another. So, division, that's why I worry about the UK, that political leaders that are promoting division in whatever way are absolutely hurting their economy. It's a regression. It's not a progression. Okay, all right, so let's move now to a couple of other questions that we can do in this reading. Again, I hope that if nothing else, that reading gave you just a little bit of a spark when things were looking pretty dark. Okay. All right, I'm really happy about that resilience. It will survive. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you so much. All right. Let's have a look at the economy right now because, again, this waking up, this bringing people together, it's being done through adversity. All right, so show me the US economy. Show me the US economy. This is not what I voted for. I can just hear it. Show me the US economy. What's going on here? Show me the US economy. Show me the US economy. There are graphs. There are people looking at graphs. There's no hiding this. Doesn't matter how much they try and fudge the figures. No hiding it. It seems the more that Trump is failing, the more bizarre he's becoming. The Ace of Wands. So we get planning and strategizing. That would fit with my... But also volatility. They're planning for volatility. They're planning right now for volatility. Abuse of power. You see how this dovetails into the other reading, that this complacency. The Ten of Swords, it's already failed. So that's in the past. It's already failed. They know it. They're looking at they're illuminating the areas where they think they need to act fairly quickly. I would not like to be Scott Bessent. In the sky, we have the Page of Wands. So there's been a slowing and a contraction. There will be a contraction into the future. So do whatever you have to do here. And then we have a truth emerging, the truth about the economy. You can't hide it, just like the Epstein files. And then we get the Five of Pentacles clarifying the Knight of Swords. So we do see that there's poverty, real poverty here, real downturn, real struggles, real financial struggles for everyday people right now, and that the economy will continue to contract. Now that's the reading right now. Okay, I didn't look to a far off future, but that's the reading right now. I guess those of you in America would already know that I was going to get those cards. Okay. Let's have a look at that Epstein matter. I wasn't going to look at that. The money that Epstein paid to these co-conspirators. Will we ever learn who these co-conspirators were? Follow the money. There's a monetary question, I said. Okay, so will we ever learn who these co-conspirators are? Oh, wow. So there's a house that's... there's like it's like a house with darkness coming up and obscuring. I can't really see the house, but the lights are on there. I think they're Florida people. All right. Will we see who these co-conspirators were? Will we see who these co-conspirators were? Ooh. I think some of them brought girls to him. All right, the star, hope. And this is what I feel. I feel we should be hopeful. Yes, we will see. It looks like, I don't know how the judge is going to rule, but it looks like we're going to, one way or another, find out who they are. Four of Wands, yep. I think so. These are all good cards. Yeah, it's already been decided, just like fast forward to when Trump is gone. It's already been decided. There's going to be, this is part of the puzzle that's being solved right now, like the Matrix. The Epstein thing is right at the centre of it. Okay, the Hierophant, the courts. Looks like the courts might rule in favour, but then we have abuse of power. We have the Judgment card in the present. That's an inevitability. And we have the Eight of Pentacles, which comes up a lot. That talks about skill or lack of it. Four of Swords in the hopes and fears retreat. And the outcome card is the Magician. I think the court's going to allow the names to be released. I think, look at these cards. Potentially they're going to. But then we get to the Moon card, things coming up from the surface, and then we have the voter there. So the cards that I would say that's in favour, Magician is a very strong outcome card. It's a very strong yes. We also get the court potentially here. I hope that there's not going to be an appeal, because that's what it feels like. It feels like if the court says yes, release these names, it feels like they're going to appeal it. Secrets remaining hidden. Some of you have thought that Trump might be one of these co-offenders. Well, wasn't he an FBI informant as well? Oh, well, let's ask the most obvious question. Is Trump one of these co-offenders that were paid for scientists to keep them? I think they're on more lower level. But anyway, I'll ask the question. Was Trump one of these co-offenders in Florida that Epstein paid, that the courts have sealed their names, but Epstein's dead now, so there's no reason for them to remain secret? So I think the court will rule one way, and then there's an appeal. Okay, well, Nine of Swords. There's a lot of anxiety around this. If it's not Trump, it's someone connected to him. Okay, so was Trump one of these co-offenders with Epstein? I don't think so, but anyway, it's an obvious question. Let's ask, was Trump one of these co-offenders? Defending oneself, a defensive posture, and then overseas interests. So I still think that this whole, there's two aspects to this. The Eastern European girls that were brought over by Epstein, and I guess Trump had this model agency as well, and a lot of the models came from those areas, ended up being compromised by Epstein. But there's also an overseas influence here. Again, the compromat, Israel and Russia. Anyway, was Trump one of these women? We've got the Queen of Pentacles. Not one of these women. That's interesting. Because my thought went to Melania. The co-conspirators. Was he one? Was he a co-conspirator? It's showing me his fight here to keep the Epstein case, to cover up the Epstein case. The Wheel of Fortune is change. If first one plan doesn't succeed. Okay, I think there's a connection here with Trump. The Empress card. is abundance, a season of time, and then the president here. We've got the Empress and there's Melania somehow involved here. So I don't think it's him. I don't think he's a co-offender as such, because I think he's not low level enough. But whatever this information is would impact on Melania. Now, I'm not saying Melania is a co-offender, but she's connected in some way to one of them. Because we get the Empress and the Emperor here. We get the Four of Cups, 3 cups lost, 1 remaining, and then we get the 8 of Swords restriction. No, he's not a co-offender there, in Miami at least, or in Florida at least. But we get a plan. He's connected in some way, and then betrayal. So no, like it's a no, but it looks like he's going to be betrayed. Trump's going to be betrayed by somebody. Somehow Trump is connected, whether it's via Melania, maybe this is allegedly for entertainment purposes only, but he doesn't want these names coming out because it's part of the trail. It's part of more and more information coming out which will reveal the truth about his relationship and his role with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so God, that whole Florida thing with Alex Acosta is a hotbed to uncover. Okay. All right, let's go to the UK now. I'll just change decks away from the US and let's look at the UK. It arrested, as I said, a blind man in a wheelchair for holding up a Palestine placard. By the way, Netanyahu has done a deal with Facebook, Google, someone else, to manage information on Gaza to try and stop the images coming out. So in other words, a propaganda campaign. Israel will fund a propaganda campaign with these social media giants to try and prevent you knowing about what is really happening in Gaza. Okay, so just another piece of the puzzle, isn't it, in our flawed humanity and recognition of that flawed humanity. Okay, so what's the question here? I can't read my own writing. What is the long-term effect of Keir Starmer's suppression of free speech in the UK? What is the long-term effect of Keir Starmer's suppression of free speech in the UK? What is going to happen here with people's right to free speech in the UK? Will he further crack down? Okay. Will Keir Starmer further crack down on free speech in the UK? It's going to be the end of him. Wheel of Fortune change. And then we get the Lover's card. The Lover's card. People is just losing more and more support for those that voted him in. There again, we didn't vote for this. How many times have you seen this? We did not vote to have our voices taken away. We get the Minor Arcana Death card, the end of something. He's in real trouble politically. His leadership is called into question. It's already called into question in the past. We have the 8 of Pentacles in the sky. Now, again, the economy, what's he going to deliver? If there's an economic downturn in the UK, again, that's the thing, when it hits the hip pocket, that really... but the 8 of Pentacles tells me he doesn't really know what he's doing. There's a space or a gap in his political, nous to be doing this. He doesn't really know what he's doing. The Chariot's suggesting things getting out of control even further. There's a big population over in those major cities in the UK, big populations that could rise up. Stability or lack of it in the present, and then the Three of Wands, migration. So, the capitalism has done very well off immigration, thank you very much. Off the backs of migrants, many countries and many communities were built. But it looks like it's now causing instability, and leaders are having to rethink. In my own country, immigration has been cut down very, very, very much for 2025. Only a couple of 100,000. Many would say that's a couple of 100,000 too much. The Ace of Pentacles is in the hopes and fears, money, the economy. And then we get the World card. The World card. It's the end for Keir Starmer. One way or another, it's going to bring his end. And of course, unfortunately, that then opens up for Nigel Farage and people like him to exploit. And of course, then we see what actually happens. You elect someone like Trump, and yeah, it's a terrible thing. They then practice their own restriction on freedom of speech. And then there's an inevitability. Okay, so he could actually even lose his job. I don't know when this is going to happen, but somehow, because of his mishandling of this, it's the end for him. Maybe there's a vote of no confidence in him. All right, one last question before we go for my own country, for my own Australian viewers. Albanese, Prime Minister Albanese is to meet Trump. It's not very far away, maybe a month or a couple of months. And of course, AUKUS, the deal, strategic defence partnership between the two countries. Many of us now are saying we're going to be stitched up by Trump. We know we're going to be. Let's pull out of that deal. We will go alone. So I can only imagine the briefings going to Albanese right now. But let's see how the meeting with Trump, Prime Minister Albanese and Trump are going to meet. How's it going to go? Show me clearly how is it going to go. Prime Minister Albanese is going to be meeting with Trump. How is it going to go? Is a younger man going to be influential in some way? I don't think it's Vance. It's not Rubio. It's someone else. Maybe it's not Hegseth. Could be someone else from defence. There's someone going to be instrumental here. How's this meeting between Albanese and Trump going to go? The end of something. Death. Well... ugh. And lies. Oh, Christ. Sorry, crikeys. Not good. It's not going to go very good. In some way, we're being stitched up already, and we're being lied to. Three of Pentacles. We get people working to rebuild some kind of trust, I guess, or alliance, but I don't know. The Death card and the Seven of Swords. The death, it's over. Why? The lies. Okay, the Hierophant is in the past, so government. The higher kind of government, that's over with. Temperance and moderation is in the sky, so there's a potential for things to be redeemed. The Four of Cups, disappointment in the immediate future. 3 cups lost, but 1 cup remaining. The Hanged Man, we have no real relationship with Trump right now. The Hanged Man is in the present, and we've retreated. And that's been my feeling. We've stepped right back from the chaos in America. We're establishing our own CDC department, commission in Australia, or agency in Australia now, because America's CDC can no longer be relied upon to give us the kind of scientific data that the world was used to paying for, and the kind of everything that goes along with that, the cutting edge drugs that we imported, and we're setting up our own CDC department here. The Queen of Pentacles in the hopes and fears, that stability, economic stability, security, national security. We get the Eight of Pentacles. Again, people not knowing what they're doing. And then we get a plan moving forward. So that's good. And then secrets, things not being known or secrets coming out about what Trump's been doing. Okay, there's something big going to go down. There's no relationship there right now. Australia is pulling away and retreating from Trump's America. There's a view that we have to go it alone. There seems to be an effort to repair the relationship. But there's something here that Trump is planning to do that I'm not sure what that is, because that wasn't the question. Looks like there's some kind of extraction of money. He's going to try and extort some more money out of us. But we're moving away. I think the meeting will, on the surface, go quite well, but just know underneath the surface, this is terrible. There's a lot of worry here about the state of the alliance or the lack of alliance. And what Trump's new foreign policy is like. It looks like we know we have to do things on our own, that we can no longer rely on Trump's America, and we're planning and we're doing that high-level planning and strategizing for it. But there's a lot of worry in the corridors of Parliament in Canberra about this, feeling we almost have to defend ourselves against Trump's America. Okay, on the surface, I think it'll go quite well, but maybe there'll be a sort of a patch-up of the bad relationship, but there's still going to be something that Trump is planning to do to us that we don't know of yet, and it has something to do with either money, getting more money out of us, or he might even want to put bases on our soil. I don't know, there's something there that's not real good. In the meantime, we're planning and strategizing for the future, potentially away from Trump's America. All right, that's the reading for today. Little bit of hope there, little bit of realism there. I did want to look at Chicago, but I'll look at that in the next reading. I wanted to look at the UK and Australia today, but we'll look at Chicago in the next reading. All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Keep your chin up. There, you saw that first reading. There is resilience there at the end of the day. Okay then, bye for now.